Right. We all know that pricing is normally about different pricing strategies, but they can ask this question first of all, like what things might determine the price of a product. Now, there's a few things that can determine whether the price is going to be high or low. The first one you can say is how much it actually costs to make. Like if a product costs £200 to make, like it wouldn't seem the most sensible business idea to sell it for 180 quid. So the fact is, if a product costs a lot to make, they're going to have to charge a high price. I think an example of that right now is electric cars. Like they're like 30 grand for like a Nissan Leaf, like the worst car ever. And the reason is it's just costing so much for all that technology, so they can't make the price any lower. Like the second thing is competition. So if there's lots of competition for a product, you can't charge too high a price. So competition can make a big impact on prices. Like the third thing is demand. If you've got loads of demand for your product, then of course you can put the price up. So when a new product comes out, there might be loads of demand for it, so they can keep a high price. And then finally, right, the government. Now this is your kind of grand finale. If the government put up something called VAT, which is value added tax, like it used to be 17.5%, so every time you bought a product you had to pay an extra 17.5%. Now it's gone up to 20%. So that means that you actually have to pay more every time you buy a product. So that can determine the price of it. Right, these are all the different pricing strategies in the GCSE course. I don't think they'll ever ask you specifically, like, what is price skimming? What they'll instead say is, can you say 2 or 3 different types of pricing strategies and say what's good about each one and then say what's bad about each one? But you need the definition first. So the definition for penetration pricing is charging a lower price at the start in order to gain market share. Now you'll see this loads of times. So when a new chocolate bar comes on the market, like normally I'll always buy a Whisper. If a Whisper's there, I'm buying it. But it's going to take me a lot to try and buy a new one. So a low price might make me do it. Like price skimming, this is a dangerous one to use in the exam. Because this is where you set a high price initially and lower it later on. Like price skimming only works for when you're doing things like high-tech products. Because if you did price skimming with like a chocolate bar, and when it first came on the market, made it £4, like no one's going to buy it, it's stupid. It only works when you're a high-tech product and there's no competition. For example, when the first new console I can't remember if it was Xbox One or PlayStation 4. But anyway, whichever one was first, they could have used skim pricing because they're the only ones out there and some people would be prepared to pay more. And the reason is you're trying to skim off as much money from the rich people who want to pay more before putting the price down. Like competitor pricing, this is what's happening with things like Asda, where you set a price based on the prices charged by competitors. So you look at everyone else's prices and you try and match it. Right, psychological pricing. Now, the big problem with psychological pricing in the exam is I can never spell it. I always want to start off with PH, but it's not. It's PSYC. Like, there's no way I'll spell this right, but I want you to try and learn it. And this is where you try and make a product look cheaper than it is by making it maybe 99p. And this works so well on me. Like, I just bought a car the other day. In my head, it was a certain price. It was £1 more. They beat me every time. Right, loss leader. I like this one. Loss leader is where you sell a product at a loss in the hope that customers will buy other goods from the store. So sometimes when you go straight into Sainsbury's, there'll be a product right in front of you and you think, wow, that's ridiculously cheap. And it actually is ridiculously cheap. They're actually making a loss on that product. But their aim is, when you buy that product, you're going to go into the shop and then buy more stuff. And finally, cost plus pricing, which is the lowest of the low. This is the most boring pricing strategy. And this is where you add a percentage profit margin to the cost of production. So if it costs you 50p to make, you say, well, I want to make 100% profit on it, so I'll sell it for £1. That's what that one is. And normally that's the one that kind of small businesses will use. Now this is the important bit. For every single one of those pricing strategies, you need to know the definition, you need to know what's good about it, and then you need to know one downside. So potentially you could pause it there and try and think and see whether you actually know a good thing and a bad thing about each one. Now I'm going to go through a couple of them right now. So I'm going to do it with a bit of colour. Let's see which colour I'll get. Okay, blue. Like penetration pricing, the good thing is it might make people try the product. So this first one, the good thing about it is it will make people try it because without the low price they won't bother doing it. The bad thing is, will these people keep on buying it when the price goes up? So for me, whenever I see penetration pricing, I might buy it at first, but if I don't like it, as soon as they put the price back up, I'm not going to buy it. Like price skimming, this again is a very dangerous one. You start off with a really high price to try and skim off all those jokers who are prepared to pay more. The problem is, if that price is too high, then no one buys it and your product looks unsuccessful. This happened with PlayStation 3 at first because there were hundreds of them still on the shelves because they were just too expensive. The next one, competitor pricing. This is setting a price based on the prices charged by competitors. Right, so say I'm a small little corner shop, so it's Mr. Robinson's corner shop. If I try and use competitor pricing against Tesco, it's just not going to work because what's the main reason? Tesco have got economies of scale and I haven't, so I can't compete on price. Right, maybe you pause it there and have a think about those because I'm going to start getting monotonous and you're probably bored of me by this point. So maybe pause it for a second, see whether you know those ones, and then press play again. Okay, the next one, psychological pricing. Like, this has actually been proven to work. So the good thing is about it is people do see the price and think it's cheaper than it is. Right? The downside is that you might lose 1 pence on every single product. Now you think that's only tiny, but think about someone like Amazon who sell millions of products every day. That extra pence, they all add up and actually make a bit of money. So sometimes you'd be losing a certain amount per I don't know, per like 1,000 products you sell. On top of that, the second downside of it is say you're a small shop, you're going to need lots of pennies, and that's just annoying. Right, moving on. Right, loss leader. Right, the good thing about a loss leader is it might entice people to come into your shop. The downside is they might come in, buy that product, then leave. So whenever I see a loss leader, I feel it's my duty to buy that product and run out that shop before buying anything else. I feel like I'm winning. Right, finally, cost plus pricing. I mean, what can you say about it? Right, the good thing about it is it's a very simple way of doing a pricing strategy. The downside is you might be doing this pricing strategy and all your competitors are a lot lower price, so therefore you won't be competitive. Right, that's the quickest I could do that. So hopefully you can re-listen to that as much as you can until you know it.